Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 11 of History 310 Online. This week, we continue our study of the era known as the early national period in American history, beginning with the Constitution and ending sometime in the 1830s before the great sectional crises between North and South blew wide open. The early national period represents a period of fundamental economic development of the United States as it emerged from its rural and colonial past, and it marks America's entry into the modern age. With its basic political and legal framework established by the Constitution, the country turned toward its pursuits of economic and financial development during this era and unleashed a second market revolution of territorial expansion and business and commercial integration that combined with an unprecedented development of basic infrastructure, including roads, dams, bridges, harbors, and canals, all of which allowed the United States to, as Secretary of War John C. Calhoun put it, conquer space. Completed in 1825, New York State's Erie Canal was an engineering marvel of the day, stretching 360 miles from the shore of Lake Erie to the state capital of Albany on the Hudson River, effectively connecting the interior economy of the Great Lakes region with the Atlantic economy of New York's Great Harbor. The Erie Canal was a scheme so audacious and so technically complicated that its critics saw it as a boondoggle and dismissed it as Clinton's ditch. But its model of public and private partnership and successful completion proved that the young nation had sufficient determination and resourcefulness to conquer the physical spaces, the great physical, territorial, and geographical spaces that doubters predicted would overwhelm it. As you study this week's materials, note that the great development and expansion of the era was underwritten and subsidized at nearly every step by government land grants, financial subsidies, commercial protections, and legal immunities that fostered capital development, construction, and market integration. The mythical past of American free enterprise, in fact, never existed without the obliging hand of government, without which the sheer scale of America's market revolution could not have happened. Now, more than just economic development, however, occurred during the early national period. We also see the rise of a newly empowered class of capitalist businessmen and bankers and entrepreneurs who translate their growing wealth into cultural potency as well as economic. They skillfully and purposely exploited the potential of new printing presses and publishing houses to emblazon the country with their visions of American culture, including the values, manners, and behavioral norms. Their values and vision of a moral and industrious America was shaped by a potent new evangelical Christianity that broke with the Calvinist and communitarian restraints of the Puritan past and preached instead that individuals were responsible for their own salvations. This was a gospel for a new age of individual opportunity and capitalist enterprise. And it was preached not just in Sunday sermons, but through countless millions of printed tracts and books, and newspapers, and Bibles that papered over the country. This new religious message of spiritual upward mobility meshed nicely with the capitalist message of economic upward mobility. And the wealthy Christian businessmen who embodied both set about building a benevolent empire of religious missionary work and reform causes. One of those causes, the movement to end slavery known as abolitionism, would help widen the gulf between North and South, leading to the antebellum and Civil War era. Now, speaking of slavery, you should not miss the fact that the market revolution itself, that is to say, the economic modernization of the country, was driven by the economic engine of plantation agriculture, especially cotton production, that rested almost entirely on the backs of enslaved laborers. In other words, the great driving economic engine of the early republic and the early national period was the spread of cotton cultivation, which drove much of the territorial growth of the country and inspired the rise of America's first factory system, the textile factories of New England, that spun southern cotton into thread and wove that thread into textiles. And all of it, along with the great fortunes it inspired, depended on the unpaid labor of enslaved men, women, and children. So study the market revolutions for this week, along with Chapter 9 of your assigned textbook reading, and complete the discussion board assignments by Sunday at 8 p.m. You may also earn some extra credit points this week by completing the optional extra credit quiz based on your textbook reading. Just click on the quiz feature of the menu bar. You've done a great job to make it this far in the course, so stay focused, stay engaged, stay curious. And as always, stay in touch with me if you have questions. Have a great week, everyone.